الله وبركاته. Bismillahir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Jazakumullah khairan for having me, and may Allah multiply your rewards for coming to Fajr in this cold weather. I don't know how you do it. It is so cold. I had nice dress pants I was gonna wear. Like, no, let me wear my jeans. This is too cold. Got layers under here. I'm from Houston. I got on the plane in a t-shirt, and then I landed here. I said, what is this? So all of those, may Allah bless the Muslims of the East Coast. Ameen. Jazakumullah khair. So our lecture this morning is about the Muslim's shield, protection from magic, sihr, and jinn, right? Is there like a jinn problem here or something? Huh? No, there isn't? Huh?
Only Trump is a jinn.
Just Trump, huh? Ice. We need protection from ice more than Jazakumullah khair. Okay, so I want to start off by saying Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawala. Amma ba'd. I want to start off with the fact that people are usually one of two extremes when it comes to things like evil eye, magic, jinn possession, like that. The two extremes. The first extreme is that everything is jinn. Everything that happens to anyone is jinn. Someone has a problem with his marriage, he says, I think there's someone did sihr for us, some kind of magic for us, because my wife and I are not getting along. And there's a true story. A man came to the Shaykh, one of my teachers. He said, I think my mother-in-law did some sihr for my wife and I. He said, why? He said, we don't get along. He said, okay, do you talk to your wife? He said, no. He said, do you take her out? He said, no. He said, do you do anything nice for her? Do you bring her gifts? He said, no. He said, it's not your mother-in-law, it's you. But we're very quick to blame everything on jinn. Anything, business fails, it must be some hasad, it must be somebody. Have a headache, it must be the jinn. I had one bad dream, it must be a jinn. And the truth is that when you consider that there are millions of us and millions of the jinn, you would imagine there would be a lot more interaction. But there isn't. How often do you pour yourself a glass of juice, you go get something, you come back, half of it is gone, the jinn drank it. And if you were invisible, wouldn't you give people a hard time? You know? If I were invisible, I would always be moving things. Your glasses, I take them, throw them out the window. You just make your life chaos. But there is little interaction between human and jinn. Because the first thing is, it is unnatural for them, let's say, talk about jinn possession, and I'll explain more in detail, but it's unnatural for a jinni to enter a human body. It's very uncomfortable for them. So they don't want to be in that situation. And on top of that, the angels protect human beings, protect the believers from the jinn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Qur'an that all human beings, they have two angels with them. One in the front, one in the back, and they protect them. له معقبات من بين يديه. بين يديه يعني in front of him. ومن خلفه يحفظونه من أمر الله. The scholar said these two angels, they protect you from everything, from jinn, from slipping and falling, from bacteria, even contemporary scholars say from germs, diseases. Because the truth is, haven't you, especially this is a snow example, like how many times have any of you experienced this where you slip in the snow or on the ice and you get to a very strange angle and you recover? Like how? How is that physically possible? Now, can we say for sure that no, two angels just picked you up? We can't say for sure. Can you also say for sure that it wasn't two angels that helped you up? You can't say that, because their job is there to protect you from everything. And sometimes Allah tells them to stand back. I decreed, let him fall this time. I decreed, let the germ affect him and he'll become ill for a while. May Allah grant all of you good health. So generally, the angels protect us from jinn, and there is little interaction. If you consider the millions and millions of human beings and millions of jinn, there is actually very little interaction happening between the two. And so that's one. The other thing is that the shaitan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly and many times described him as weak in the Qur'an. Even in the surah that we all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes him as al-waswas, al-khannas, al-waswasa, so you whisper. So he whispers and then yakhnus. Yakhnus means he withdraws. So why is he always withdrawing? Why doesn't he just stay there and whisper all the time? He whispers something, then he runs away. Then he comes back and whispers, then he runs away. He's running away, that's the sign of his weakness. He runs away because when you mention Allah Azza wa Jal, he leaves. When you recite Qur'an, he leaves. When the adhan is recited or called, he leaves. He's weak. So to blame and to give them so much power gives them power. One more time. When you give them so much power, you actually give them power. How? If you remember in Surah Al-Jinn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِّنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِّنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. So, and if you want the background, the context of this verse, the early Muslims, before Islam, the Arabs, when they would be traveling through the desert, then they want to settle in an area or a valley. So the man would say, أعوذ بسيد هذا الوادي من الجن من سفهاء قومه. He would say, I seek the protection of the leader of the jinn of this valley from those in his, I'm seeking the protection of the leader from the rest of his tribe to protect me. So Allah says, فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا. They increase them in fear. And that's exactly how they are until today. When you're afraid of the jinn, they come to you. When you're afraid of them and you think they have so much power, then you start to see shadows flying across the wall, things moving at night, and then they increase you in fear. But the default is they're afraid of you. The default is they're afraid of you. One of the great scholars, he saw this little boy at night, and he wants to go down this alleyway or some area. It was dark and he was scared. Of course he's scared of the jinn. 800 years ago, they didn't have boogeyman, they didn't have all the monsters we have. Remember, if someone's afraid, they're afraid of the jinn. So the Shaykh tells him, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. Their nature is they're scared of the human being. So, but when you're afraid of them, they start to scare you. And the best analogy I can give you is what they call toy breeds of dogs, the small. I know we're not very big fans of kuttas in our communities, right? But there's these small breeds of dogs that in English, in America, we call them something else informally. They're also called ankle biters, right? Why ankle biters? If you ever find anyone who's been bitten by a small breed of dog, they always bite the ankle. But you never meet anyone the dog came and bit him from the front or on the thigh, or they always bite the ankle. Why? Because these breeds are afraid. They're very small and they're scared of human beings. And you've seen this, maybe one day you're walking at the park, the little dog comes to you, he's barking so aggressively, you hold your ground, he stops, he turns around and walks away. But if you run, you give him courage. If you run, he runs after you and he just nips you in the ankle. That's why they're called ankle biters. But if you stand your ground, they leave. The jinn, exactly that way. When you show fear, they start coming and bothering you and things like that. But if you're not afraid of them, they can't do anything because their nature is they're weak. Your du'as, your adhkar, your Qur'an, your salawat, all these things protect you from them. The point is that we said there are two extremes. The first extreme, everything is jinn. Everything that happens, my business failed, jinn. One of the early scholars, he had a business transaction. It was like something like barrels of oil or something like that, and there was like something. No, I don't remember. I make some up stories, but basically, one of the early scholars, he had a business transaction and it went bad, and he was thrown in jail because now he owes a lot of people money. And today you would say, someone gave me hasad, I bet you it's so and so, my neighbor or this guy. He said, this is my own doing, because many years ago there was a man and he was poor. And I made fun of him for being poor. And that's why Allah did this to me. What I'm trying to say is look at the difference between the early Muslims and how we behave today. Today, we never blame ourselves for anything that goes wrong in our life. Something's wrong with my wife, it's hasad and ayn and something's wrong with my business, again hasad, ayn. But then they used to say, no, this is my fault because I did this wrong. I disobeyed Allah with this and disobeyed Allah with that. So that's the first extreme. The second extreme, all this is nonsense. There is no proof. There is no evidence. Science does not support this. Right. And this is important for us, and this kind of ties into my later lecture, bi'idhnillah. And that is, if you look at what science is, like a very basic definition of science, it is a way of understanding the universe or the world. That's what science is. It's a way to understand and make sense of the world and the universe. And then there are methods of observation, experimentation, and scientific methods to come to these solid conclusions. So, how do you use the system of understanding the world to explain something from outside of the world? This is as a general philosophy. Yani, can you set up an experiment to prove to me and to show me how when I give $1 in charity, Allah multiplies it by 10 and then by 7, then by 100? Can you set up an experiment to prove that? Because Allah multiplying your ajr is from the other world. It's from the world of the unseen. You cannot set up an experiment to show that to me. So people will say, you know, I studied psychology, I have a master's in psychology, and there is no room for jinn. No one ever in any textbook explained the jinn to us. That's because you studied the discipline under a people that have one source of knowledge. And this is, again, just bear with me, but this makes life easier for you. So they study the discipline and they have one source. Yani, what is the source of knowledge? It's not books, because where the books get the material from. It's not people's brains, because where the brains get the material from. The source, philosophically for Westerners, the source of knowledge is the universe. Like everything you know will be from the universe. You observe animals behaving in a certain way. You observe star constellations. You observe gases, chemicals. You're observing, then you experiment. But everything you learn will be from this world. But for Muslims, we have another source of knowledge. So we have a different philosophy. Our first source of knowledge is also the universe. Like everything you see, learn, observe will be from the universe. The second will be from al-wahi, revelation. And some scholars break it down into al-wahi al-mubashir, direct revelation, the Qur'an, and wahi al-ghair mubashir, the indirect revelation, the Sunnah. So not everything we know is from our universe. Yani, how do we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the people of righteousness with an eternal Jannah and the people of disobedience with the hellfire? That we didn't learn that from the universe. We didn't learn that through observing and putting something under a microscope. This came from our second source of knowledge, or meaning revelation. So you can't use the science to try to say, well, this doesn't work or this is not the case, because it comes from a different source. Anyways, the point is that the psychologist who got a master's in psychology, he studied it under the philosophy of this discipline, under the philosophy of the knowledge coming from the universe. And of course, they didn't study in the psychology book that there's something called jinn and jinn possession and everything. Now, with that being said, it is extremely rare. Yani, when you talk to people who deal with ruqya and stuff like that, do you have a raqi in New Jersey? No, we don't have one in Houston. We don't have a single one in all of Houston. You guys have many here? Okay. So if you talk to them, they say that 1% of the cases that come to them actually are jinn or hasad or sin. 1%. Not 10, not 5, 1. Half the time, it's someone who actually has another problem. Someone who has some kind of disorder or some kind of psychological issue, or they're bipolar, and the child is bipolar and the parents think it must be jinn. And the girl is this and they think it's jinn. The young man does drugs. The parents say he's behaving very strangely. He said, the Shaykh will say, the guy will come to me, I can see drugs all over him. You know, and I'll know it's not Jinn. And one time this guy said, the Shaykh said, the lady brought her daughter, and he said, I started to recite on the girl, she started acting. So he told the mother, just go out for a minute. He said, okay, your mother's gone, what's going on? She said, he said, stop, your mother's not here, khalas, drop the act. She said, I have a boyfriend, I love him. Okay, so 1% of the time there's something going on. And the rest of the time, it's not. Someone is bipolar, someone actually has a problem, has schizophrenia, and he actually needs to go see help, you know. And in our communities, we don't like to go to a psychiatrist. Because you go to a psychiatrist, why? We don't even like therapy. Oh, well, you think I'm pagal ho gaya? Damag kharab ho gaya, you want to send me to... Khalas, I'm crazy. No, you're not crazy. These are means that Allah put at our disposal, and we should take advantage of it. But what happens is that we don't want to do that. So we'll go to the Shaykh. And even some shuyukh who do ruqya, they keep it top secret. Because they don't want people to waste their time. That 99% of them are just going to be other cases or other issues. And it's just going to waste his time. He's going to recite. They're going to bring them every Tuesday. He's going to recite for 1 hour. Spend so much time. So in the other extreme, we're saying that some people are saying that there's no such thing, it's nonsense and it doesn't exist. And in this area, you really have to, a lot of times, see with your own eyes. There was a doctor in Virginia, she's a medical doctor, and like I've personally dealt with her, and my friend used to recite on her, and I would recite on like Zamzam water, and then at the end of the session she would drink it and stuff like that. She said, as a medical doctor, I didn't believe in stuff like this. She's also not a very religious woman, Islamically, she's not very religious. She said, if this did not happen to me personally, I would never believe this. And that's the thing, like, you did not study this in your discipline, so even if 1,000 people tell you about it, I'm not going to believe it. I don't have room in my head to believe that this is possible. But she said, if this didn't happen to me personally, I would never have believed this. And she experienced a lot of crazy things, but she went through it personally and experienced it. One of the famous debates you always see on TV, like in the Muslim lands, there'll be doctors or psychologists, and they'll have a debate with the Shaykh. Is jinn possession real or not? One of my teachers, he was in one of these televised debates, and he destroyed the other group. He said, okay, this is something I experienced multiple times. We'll be reciting, and you know overseas they have these like long living rooms like that. He said, we'll be reciting on a person, and when it's getting close, I'll take sometimes a tissue or a little paper cup, and I'll put it at the edge of the table like this. Not our table, a table at the end of the living room. I'll put a table like a little paper cup or a tissue at the edge of the table, and I'll tell the jinn, I need to know when you leave, I need to know. So as you leave, I want you to knock over that cup or knock over that tissue. He said, this happened multiple times, not 2 times, not 3 times. The person, we recite, and then we see a difference in the person, and boom, the cup falls over there. So he said, explain that. Yalla, using your science, explain that. Because as you know, science doesn't have an explanation for this. What are you going to say? Telekinesis? No, that's not even science. So how are you going to explain that? So that was, he killed them. He ended the debate. He finished the debate with that. And they couldn't respond to that. And there's so many things that there are no explanations for. But even with that being said, we're saying it's extremely rare. It is not something that happens all the time. It's not something that is very common. It is very rare. But in the 1%, it does happen. It can be ayn, it can be black magic, and it can be the jinn. So if you think about how Allah gave the jinn the ability, so as the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, that inna shaytan yajri in bani Adam majra dam, or kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the jinn, basically it's saying he has access to you, like he runs through your body as the blood runs through your veins. So he has access to you. And your qareen, that's the jinn that's been with you since you were born, your qareen knows your weaknesses, knows your thoughts, and he presents you things based on your weakness. Yani, if someone has asthma, the qareen doesn't try to get them to smoke. They're not interested in that. But he knows their particular weakness and he tries to present them with that, or to lure them into doing that. So we were saying that, what was I saying? I forgot what I was going in too many loops here. So anyways, I started by making the point that
Jinn is in our vein.
aywa sahih, thank you sir, that you're paying attention, thank you, that they have access to you, right? So I met with the Shaykh once and he was saying there's no such thing as jinn possession. Okay, but what about verse 275? كَالَّذِي يَتَخَبَّطُهُ الشَّيْطَانُ مِنَ الْمَسِّ. Mess is when the shaitan touches or afflicts you. He said, I don't believe it. There's no way that he can come in and to take over your personality, which is again very rare. But so we asked him, okay, but does the shayateen give you nightmares? The shayateen, do they give you nightmares? He said yes. Well, we know that. But think of this idea of the shaitan, he gives you nightmares. How is that possible if Allah did not give them access? Yani, how does the shaitan give you the image of a bear in your head? He constructs the roads, and you are on this hiking trail, and then a bear comes, and then you start running, and the bear is getting close to you every time you look back, and then of course what happens? You have to, just like in the movies, you have to trip. You trip, and then you turn around, and the bear's like this, and you wake up scared. How did he get the image in your head like that? How? Because Allah gave him access like that. Now, on that same note, what does the shaitan benefit when he gives you a nightmare? A bear is chasing you, a dog is chasing you, something scary, or some bad news, someone died, and then you wake up scared. What does he benefit from that? Does anyone know?
Person gets scared and he tells somebody else.
Okay.
And when he gets more scared and weak.
Okay, you're right, because the Prophet ﷺ said that when you see a nightmare from the shaitan, you don't tell people about it. Why? Because then people start interpreting and attaching meaning to some nonsense from the shaitan. I saw that my business burned down, and then these guys, oh, I think that new investor is not good, and let's get rid of him. And there was nothing. Fine. And sometimes I ask that question, people say things like, oh, the shaitan wants you to doubt Islam. How doubt Islam? The bear is chasing you. It has nothing to do with Islam. But what does he benefit?
Good luck.
Huh?
Good luck.
Yeah. He hates you so much. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌ فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًا. Shaitan is an enemy to you. Take him as a real enemy. Believe he's your enemy. He hates you so much that he doesn't want you to have a good night's sleep. He doesn't benefit anything. He hates you that much. Yani imagine that you hate a human being so much that you stand outside his house like this. 2:30 in the morning, you ring his doorbell and you run away. 3:30 in the morning, you throw a brick through his window. 4 in the morning, you come and set off his alarm. And then someone says, why are you doing that to him? Like, oh, I really hate him. I just don't want him to sleep well. That's the only reason. I want to disturb his sleep. They would say, oh, you really hate that person. And that's exactly how it is. The shaitan hates us so much, he doesn't want us to sleep well. So it brings you a nightmare that has no meaning whatsoever. And it's not going to make you doubt Allah or anything. But it's just going to disrupt your nice, wonderful sleep. And that's all he cares about. He's a true enemy. So, with that being said, let's start with one of the three. So, we kind of talked about jinn a little bit, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them different abilities, and they're created from a different substance, therefore they have different abilities. But we said their nature is that they are weak. Yani, like in the hadith, if you have a plate of food, and you cover it with a napkin, with a cloth, with another paper plate, and you say Bismillah, all the jinn of the world cannot uncover that. Napkin, The wind can blow it. But if you say Bismillah and you cover this food, all the jinn in the world, they cannot uncover that food. Because you said Bismillah. You didn't sit and recite half of al-Baqarah, just Bismillah. And all the jinn, the strongest jinn, cannot uncover it. Bring a 1-year-old, and just like this. So you see how in this case, like a small baby is stronger than the strongest of the jinn. But what made this difference in strength is the name of Allah, the Basmala. So to think that creature who's so weak has so much control over your life that it's going to affect your marriage and your business and all your relationships, that's giving them too much power. And then they will get you to believe that they have all that power, just like we said in the verse earlier. So their nature is that they're weak. You say Bismillah when you enter your home, the shaitan will call out to the other shayateen, and you say you don't have any shelter here. Because you said Bismillah walking into your home. So we can't spend the night here, there's no shelter for us here. Bismillah before you eat, and they can't eat with you. You know that narration about the two shayateen that met? One of them was a shaitan with a kafir. One of them is shaitan with a Muslim. The one with the kafir looks good, his hair is nicely done, he's healthy. And then the one with the Muslim, he's just like this, he's weak, he's a mess, his hair is disheveled. Why? Because every time this Muslim is saying Bismillah, then he's making dua, then he's making his adhkar, then he's praying his salawat on time. And I can't eat with him, I can't relax, I'm always running around. The other guy is having a great time. He's eating with him, everything, right? So the jinn, we said entering a human body is something that's very rare, and it's also something that is very uncomfortable for them. Let's talk about that 1% of times when that is the case. What do you do in that case? And what are the signs of that? So here's something important. Sometimes we know that if you have this symptom, it's one of the symptoms of the shaitan, having some kind of effect on your body. But let's say, when it rains, one of the signs that it rained is that the ground is wet, the floor is wet, right? So if you step out of your house and you see some water on the ground, do you assume that it has rained? If just a little bit of water on the ground, do you assume it has rained? Or the sun is clear and it's been out all day, but you see some water on the ground. Does it mean it must have rained? Or could it be someone used the hose and wet the area, or someone washed their car, that's why the driveway is wet? So the water being on the ground is one of the signs of rain, but it doesn't necessarily indicate that there was rain. But you put it with all the other signs and now it makes sense. So meaning it's a cloudy day, you can smell rain in the air, you can feel droplets of water, you can see that the ground is wet. Now it makes sense. So having one of these signs doesn't mean that you have a jinn. But you have a bunch of them together, it's possible. I'm going to just run through the signs and then talk about what to do in a situation like that. So the signs would be a combination, not one of the following that I'm about to list. You watch those commercials on TV about if you have this, if you experience this, then this Mylanta could be for you. You know what I'm talking about, the medication. And as they go through the symptoms, you convince yourself, I got that one. Constantly feeling tired and fatigued. I have that one. Who doesn't? We all work 9 to 5. We're always fatigued and tired. Feeling sleepy and drowsy. Oh, I have that one also, especially at midnight. All right. So they say recitation of the Qur'an bothers you, or something like the adhan bothers you, or you prefer to stay in the dark a lot. That doesn't mean this guy, he likes to take his phone at night and just stay in there. That's not it. But he prefers to be in the dark, does not like to be around people, and he feels uncomfortable when they're around people, does not like to bathe and shower, prefers to kind of be dirty, filthy like that. And there are other things but these are could be more extreme cases, like constant burping, constant yawning, even if you've well rested but you're just constantly yawning, constantly tired. So these things could indicate that there's something going on. The best remedy really isn't really to look for a shaykh or anything like that. The best remedy is to recite upon yourself. That's your best ruqyah. To recite Qur'an upon yourself. And when you recite, it is stronger than playing I was going to say cassette. Playing it off of YouTube or playing it off of your phone. It's not as effective as when you recite for yourself. And we don't need a big shaykh and with beard over 4 inches to recite. Anyone can recite upon themselves if you feel that there is actually something going on. So I'll tell you one of my favorite stories. This is a brother from the East Coast, and I'm originally from Virginia. So not every story I tell you is Houston. So this brother, he was quite certain that something happened to him concerning shaitan. Like shaitan has entered him. He's not the same. He hears sounds, he sees things, and those are like kind of strong indications. I'll tell you, I'm stopping that story to play another story. There was a sister, a Nigerian sister in California. She lives with her brother, and this priest was trying to get her to become Christian. So he basically, believe it or not, gave her something that caused the shayateen to enter her. And she said they would be screaming at the top of their lungs in my head. Now is that normal? That's not normal. Like, she's fully awake at work, at school, whatever, and these shayateen are screaming at the top of their lungs in her head, Jesus is king, constantly all day. And then I don't know why she did this, but the priest convinced her. He gave her an ingredient. He said, put this in your brother's food. And she baked him a cake with that ingredient in it, and he ate it. And he experienced one of the most disturbing things until now that I've heard. He said once he ate that cake, my best friend was the one, we would travel to California to do ruqyah for them. He said, I would feel like a fish, like about this big, is swimming inside my body. And can you imagine that feeling? This fish would come, I would feel it swimming up my arm. And then it would swim up here. I could feel it in my ear, in my nose. And then it would go down to his arm, then go down his legs, then it would go to his privates. And just this thing is just fish swimming around my body the entire time. He said when I confronted his sister, she said, yeah, the guy told me to put this in your food, I put it in your cake. Anyways, many crazy things about that story. But let me pause that one and go back to the original one, which I forgot now. What was it? You're gonna be my go-to guy.
Virginia.
Yes, the Virginia guy, yeah, thank you. So this guy, he felt that something happened to him, and it was like out of the ordinary. So he was convinced. He didn't run and look for a sheikh, or he said, I went, but this is like a true champion. This is not your average story. This guy is a hero. He said, I went to the Masjid. He went to like one of the libraries or whatever, one of the quiet rooms in the Masjid. He said, I opened the Mus'haf, and I made a deal with this guy in him. I said, I'm not getting up from this chair until you're gone. He said, I opened the Qur'an the beginning, Al-Fatiha, and I went into Al-Baqarah. And I just kept reciting for hours till I got tired. So when I got tired, I fell asleep in the chair. I'm not getting up, so I fell asleep. When I fell asleep, I saw in a dream that the shaitan is sitting in my chair, and I'm walking towards him with this big knife. Said I woke up, made wudu, came and kept reciting for hours. Then I said I fell asleep in my chair. So when I fell asleep, I saw the shaitan sitting in the same chair. His neck is slit and he's dead like this. So when I woke up, I knew he is about gone. He said I started reciting a little bit, and typically what happens, they'll feel their left leg kick up like that. He said I recited a little bit, boom, my leg kicked up like that. He was gone. But you know how he recited? 13 hours straight. And he finished it in one day. He said, we're going to do an intensive. Versus, we go to the sheikh. Every Tuesday, he reads 1 hour. Then we go next Tuesday. We do this for 6 months. But remember, we said it's already uncomfortable for them to be in the human body. So you're adding the discomfort. You're adding to it the discomfort of the Qur'an. And I'm not going to give you a break. If you give him a break, khalas, it's only Tuesdays, and then the rest of the week we have fun and we eat with him and we have a nice time. But this guy said, I'm not going to leave until you get out. That was one of my favorite stories, but it's also rare. Like this guy just sat and pushed himself, but he didn't look for a shaykh, he didn't try to he just did it himself. The Qur'an is your own ruqyah. And we're talking about Surah Al-Fatiha, we're talking about reciting وَاتَّبَعُوا مَا تَتْلُو الشَّيَاطِينُ عَلَى مُلْكِ سُلَيْمَانَ, I believe it's verse 103, Surah Al-Baqarah, then Ayat Al-Kursi, 255, then the last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, and then the قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدْ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِالْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, the mu'awwidhat, So you recite those, and they're your protection from the shaitan. They're your way to also expel them as well. Keeping the Qur'an around you in your life is one of the automatic methods of protecting yourself from the shaitan. Praying on time is one of the ways to automatically protect yourself from the shaitan. And there was this very strong and known sorcerer, this was overseas, and he said this young man, I'm just going to make the story very brief, this young man came during his kind of performance and recited Ayat al-Kursi, and that ruined the performance. He ended up in the hospital for months. He said, for 2 years, I sent the strongest shayateen to destroy this young man. For 2 years. The strongest shayateen. And they could do nothing to him because he prayed on time. He's not even aware. Can you imagine this young man? He doesn't even know that this army is coming at him and it stops everything. He just prays on time. Your morning adhkar. There is nothing like the morning adhkar. The Hisn Muslim, the fortress or the fortification of the Muslim. There's the adhkar, many adhkar apps. Your morning adhkars have in them things that will protect you from the shaitan. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. Right? Or لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله 100 times. These, the shaitan can't do anything to you. Can't do anything to you with that. So, alright. We're getting close to the end, right? Okay, great. So let's do our... Okay, great. So let's do quickly hasad and evil eye. So, al-ayn, evil eye, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, al-aynu haqq. The evil eye is true. It is something that's actually there. Now, it doesn't mean because it's true, it's everything. Everything that happens is evil eye. It's not the case. But could some things be evil eye? Yes. And could you protect others from your evil eye and protect yourself from the evil eye of others? One of the companions, he's one of the people who attended the Battle of Badr, and he gave the evil eye to one of the companions known as Sahl ibn Hanif. Sahl ibn Hanif was bathing, right? So he could be wearing something here around his waist, and he's bathing, and Amr radiallahu anhu walked by, and he saw his skin was very, very white, like very smooth and unblemished. So he said, "Ma ra'aytuka al-yawmi ajaba." I've never seen anything as amazing as this. Wala jildu mukhabba'a. Not even al-mukhabba'a, like when a woman is getting ready for marriage and whatever, they hide her mukhabba'a. They hide her from the sun. She stays home only, or the woman who doesn't leave the house. So what happens? Her skin gets very pale. So he said, I've never seen anything as amazing as this. Not even like the skin of a mukhabba'a, even better than the skin of a mukhabba'a. So when he said that, Sahl ibn Hanif radiallahu anhu dropped immediately. He dropped immediately. And they carried him, and then someone said, Ya Rasulullah, the only thing that happened is Amr radiallahu anhu said this. And the Prophet asked Amr to bathe in water and then give it to Sahl ibn Hanif. And then they poured it over, like here, the back like this, his back. And they said he shot up and got up immediately like nothing happened. So the Prophet said, if you say something like that to an individual, and then they ask you, if something happened to you, so all of a sudden that's weird and strange, and then you tell your 4 friends who knew about it, look, it could be that one of you gave the ayn. Now the ayn doesn't mean you're an evil person, Because Amr radiallahu anhu is one of the people of Badr. He's a great companion. It doesn't mean you're evil. So the Prophet said, if your brother asks you to bathe, bathe. Don't say, how could you accuse me? A'udhu billah, you think I would be someone who was like that? Don't give him that lecture. Just bathe. I'll tell you a true story. This guy, one of my best friends, he moved to Riyadh. And he said, in Saudi, he said, I met this Shaykh. He's an amazing guy, always working for da'wah, but he's like almost completely blind now. He said, then the Shaykh told me his story. He said, I used to have incredible eyesight. He said, one time we were coming back from a da'wah trip, and I'm driving, and it's at night. And there was a brother with me, and he said, we need to stop, whatever. He said, we'll stop when we get near to that sign over there. So the guy said, what sign? He said, the sign over there. He said, you can see that sign? He didn't say Allahumma barik or anything. He said, what amazing eyesight. The guy said, Wallah. The minute he said that, my eyesight went like this. Just dimmed like that. And then it started getting worse, progressively, quickly getting worse. From incredible eyesight, eagle vision. He said, the minute he said that, and then it started getting worse and worse and worse. He said, I asked him, begged him, Ya akhi, please just bathe and give it to me. Like, how could you accuse me? Prophet ﷺ said, Ya akhi, if your brother asks you to bathe, bathe. How could you think I would be someone like that who gives someone ain? Ya akhi, a companion did it. What's the problem? He said the guy refused, and now he's almost completely blind. Just do it. At least eliminate yourself. Yani maybe you're not the one. At least do it for them. By the way, I want to give you a very important distinction. Very important. How to know if something is caused by ain or black magic or jinn. And this is a very good distinction. If let's say someone has a problem, all right? This is actually a true story. A couple, they cannot have children, all right? So they went to all the top doctors and everything. And then they find out that the woman has a problem, one of her fallopian tubes is blocked or whatever. Can we say it's a jinn now? No, you have a blocked fallopian tube. It's not jinn. We can see the issue, all right? Or someone has these incredible migraines, and then when he goes and gets checked up, he sees that there's a chemical imbalance in the brain. Okay, now we can see what's actually physically wrong. It's not jinn. But you go to all the doctors, and everything is 100%. Everything is 100% biologically. There's something wrong here, and here it's possible it's a jinn. It's possible, right? So a man and woman, they can't have children, but he's 100%, she's 100%. They pass every test. Now it could be a jinn. You understand? So you have back pain, and this is a true story. MRIs, nothing. X-rays, nothing. All right? Then they discovered, they recited on him, and it was a jinniya. She's getting revenge for something that he did accidentally, and she entered his body and just squeezes his lower back like this, causing him pain. That's why the MRI didn't show anything, the X-ray didn't show anything. So if medicine says everything's 100%, but you have a big problem, it could very well be a jinn. But if medicine says you have this problem, you have diabetes, don't say jinn now. You have diabetes, okay? Someone has something with, may Allah grant you all good health, I don't like to mention all these bad sicknesses, but the doctor says you have this, the tests show this, it can't be jinn now. You have that thing. But if everything's 100%, and then you seem to have the symptoms of that thing, then it could be a jinn, and that's when you would recite upon yourself. So ain, it could be sihr, it could be black magic, and the black magic, يعني قل أعوذ بالفلق قل أعوذ بالناس, these kind of ain, again the mu'udhatain. These are your protection from these things. Your du'as, your adhkar in the morning, they automatically protect you from all these kinds of things. You're protecting other people. Ain is, or like the evil eye, you see something and you don't say Allahumma barik. Yani you're supposed to invoke the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not really mashallah la quwwata illa billah is for your own thing. Because you can give your own thing ain, but you can't give your own thing hasad. Because hasad, envy, is when you like the blessing so much that you wish the other person loses it. Someone in the community buys a brand new car, luxury car. You love it so much that you're angered and you wish for him to lose that blessing. You can never give that to yourself, envy. You can never envy yourself for having a car and wish to lose the car. But you can give yourself ayn. I know I'm okay, 5 minutes though. So, alright, so let's do some Q&A inshallah in the 5 minutes remaining. Whoever wants to go first, Faddal. Yes,
The pre-Islamic Arabs, did they believe in jinn?
Easily, yes. Just like when I mentioned the verse.
Okay, so it was just what they already believed, it was sort of like.
Absolutely.
So where did they get this belief, the pre-Islamic Arabs?
Where did they get it from? Oh, that's a great question. Christians believe it too. I'm not sure, wallah. That's a great question. Very clever. I don't know. I don't want to George Bush it, you know.
The famous story where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Iblis and the angels to prostrate Adam.
Yes.
In that assembly, did they witness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, did they see them in his real form, or is this something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reveal himself only, on the day of resurrection to the believers when they will enter paradise? Now, my question has two parts. That's the first question. And did angels like Jibreel actually saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his true form? That's number one. Number two, there is Azabul Qabr. Do jinns also actually go through this process of Azabul Qabr, and do they have their own graveyards and all that? That's the second part of the question.
Okay, wow. A lot of tough questions today. So he's saying that when those in attendance with Allah Azza wa Jal, when Allah commanded them to prostrate to Adam, and even Jibreel, did they actually see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So I don't know the answer to that, because I don't have a direct evidence stating that. During the Isra and Mi'raj journey, the Prophet ﷺ and Jibreel ﷺ ascended so high, then the Prophet ﷺ turned and Jibreel ﷺ looked like he was about to collapse. He said, I cannot take one more step. If I take one more step, I will burn up. And the Prophet ﷺ proceeded ﷺ by himself. And so this is showing Jibreel, meaning what Allah described in the Quran as Shadidul Quwa, the most powerful of the angels, couldn't take another further step. But then the hadith also described that there are angels who are around the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do they directly see Allah? If I had a clear statement, hadith, that said they directly see and speak to Allah, then I would answer that. But I can't think of one. Wallahu ta'ala alam. That's what I'll say. The jinn have their adab al-qabr and punishment of the grave. Huh? Okay, Shaykh said yes. Alright? Shaykh said yes. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Alright? Yes, sir.
Is the default that the jinn are always shayateen and then they're good and then convert, or
Okay.
just like us?
Great. He's saying is the default is that the jinn are always shayateen. So jinn is the kind, right? There's angels, jinn, humans. So jinn is the kind. They're referred to as jinn. And the scholars said that when you typically say jinn, you are referring to the Muslims amongst them. Because when you refer to the non-Muslims amongst them, you say the shayateen. So the distinction is that when you say jinn, you typically mean the believers from amongst that kind. And when you say the shayateen, you mean the disbelievers, or those that don't believe from that kind. And then of course there are many. There's Marid, there's the Ifrit, and there are different names. The Marid is a very strong one, the Ifrit is the clever one, and the fast one, and so on. The different kinds. Well, we don't need to get into that. Allah ta'ala alam. Yes, sir.
So it was Iblis that was there when Allah asked them to prostrate to Adam, right? So is Iblis supposed to be alive all this time, or is it just the descendants of Iblis?
Okay, good. He's saying Iblis was there when he was supposed to prostrate to Adam thousands and thousands of years ago. So is Iblis still alive? Because Iblis said, قَالَ انظِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. He said, allow me to live, give me respite, allow me to live until يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ, until the day of judgment. قَالَ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْمُنذَرِينَ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْوَقْتِ الْمَعْلُومِ. Allah's answer was slightly different. The majority of scholars do say, because Allah said, you will be given I will extend your life until that appointed day. That's the majority of scholars say this. There's a minority opinion, and I'll be honest, I like this opinion, that says Allah didn't say the same day, He said until that appointed time, اليوم يوم الوقت المعلوم, that some believe it's a minority opinion, okay? But some believe that Iblis will die shortly before the day of judgment. He will not live until the exact day of judgment itself. Either way, he's going to live an extended period, and the scholar said, why? Like, why make this evil guy live for so long? Why not 2,000 years, then he dies? Because then the test would not be the same for all of humanity. Because then, when you go to Jannah, inshallah, you will meet people from other generations. You'll say, oh man. And then he'll say, Iblis gave us a hard time. You say, who's Iblis? He said, you didn't know Iblis? No, he died when I was born. That's not fair. We had to deal with Iblis and you didn't. It makes the test, the scholar said, it makes the test even all the way through. Allah Ta'ala alam. Yeah, I apologize. It is 7:30, but I'm not leaving. So we're going to be having breakfast. So while everyone's eating and enjoying themselves, I'll be answering questions. So, two people had their hand up before you. I can't take you in
5 more minutes?
5 more minutes. Fantastic. Then we probably have time. That's what you were trying to say, or you have a question? Because that gentleman, Shaykh, right there, had something before. Fadal, Shaykh.
You mentioned we should read the Quran if there is any problem. We can solve the problem by ourselves. When Hazrat Aisha has a problem, she has an external person who can pinpoint the problem and cure the problem.
So, what were you referring to with Aisha? What incident is this?
You mentioned about the magic, Jinn.
Uh-huh.
Hazrat Aisha, when she got affected by Jinn from Sihr, and she got somebody else who can.
Okay, yes, I got you. I just wasn't familiar with the incident. But yes, so the truth is, yes, you're correct. You're completely allowed to have someone recite upon you, and someone who has experience. And you know, the jinn, when the recitation for ruqya, it's a very forceful kind of recitation. And it's not just reciting Quran like for enjoyment, like you reading it to them and you're like crashing it on their head. It's a very strong recitation. So I can understand that, and someone is not fluent, and so they would go and get outside help. We're not deterring or from that. Absolutely, you can get someone who is experienced outside help to help you do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Or you can do it on yourself. Thank you for that clarification. Yes, sir.
My question is how to protect the human from if it happens. For example, if it happened, and we tell him like or it happened once and they don't find it.
You can't find out who it is.
Yeah, I can't find it. What's the solution?
Yes. So he's saying like he's correct. He's saying that the Prophet ﷺ said that one of the main causes of death in my ummah was ayn. Like you will never know it was ayn. You go to a janazah, the imam doesn't say this brother died as a result of ayn, on I-45. You don't know that for a fact, but it's very, very common. So he's saying then, let's say you can't pinpoint the individuals to bathe and give you the water. Like, what do you do in that case? In that case, this is where you're left with your du'as, you're left with your adhkar, you're left with your Qur'an. You're reciting, especially the Qul a'udhu bil falaq, Qul a'udhu bin nas, you're reciting from Al-Baqarah, you're reciting the ayat that we mentioned earlier, and you're upon that. You have to continue upon that. And it can remove that. Whereas, like let's say if it's black magic, and it's not very common, especially for us now, but there were cases of, subhanAllah, people here who live in America, and then finally when the sheikh recites, the jinn speaks, he shows them the location of where the black magic is hidden, just like for the Prophet ﷺ. And they'll call back home, and the person will go look in the area and send them a photo of it, and they'll actually find it. And when you undo that, because the Prophet ﷺ, when the sihr was done to him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the sihr, they took a hair from the Prophet ﷺ, Labid ibn al-A'sam, may Allah curse him, he tied 11 knots into the hair of the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah revealed قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِالْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِالنَّاسِ that have 11 verses. So every time and Nabi ﷺ would recite one verse, he would undo one knot, then recite the next verse, undo the second knot. By the time he was done with the 11th, he had recited all 11 verses. These are your main strength against that. Wallahu ta'ala. Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to be around. They're telling me our time is done, but I'm not leaving. You can catch me before I take a bite of food. And Jazakumullah khairan for listening so attentively. Sallallahu barak ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you guys very much.